What is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for another edition of our beverage panel discussions. I am your host, Nate, and this is the Beverage Talk about whiskey bars. I hope you all had a happy new year. As you know, we are going to be hosting our Beverage Whiskey Live event coming up in the next couple of weeks here. If you haven't grabbed your kit, you can already go to beverage.co to grab yours, and everything that we do here will be live, and you will be able to stream this after. So without further ado, I am going to welcome some very cool people to today's conversation. This is whiskey bars. This is going to be a great topic. I love both the people that I am talking to today very much. They have some amazing, incredible spaces in the Seattle and San Francisco area and are both extremely revered people in the industry. So the first person I will bring out is Ollie Lundberg. He is the owner of Hardwater in San Francisco. Hello, Ollie. Nice to see you. Ollie graduated with a master's in architecture from the University of Virginia in 1979 and also holds degrees in English Lit and sculpture from Washington and Lee University. Ollie is the owner of Hardwater, an American whiskey bar, which is tucked into the historic bulkhead building in San Francisco's Pier 3. Ollie believes that whiskey is being rediscovered by a younger, more diverse crowd that is rediscovering it, and Hardwater is built for them. Thank you so much for being here, Ollie. I love having you here, man. This is awesome. And I've been to your bars and your restaurant, and they are fantastic. Very cool. My next guest here is one of my dear friends that I see on a bi-weekly basis, Mr. Tommy Patrick. What is going on, Tommy?
How you doing, brother?
Great, man. Thank you so much for being here. Tommy is the co-owner of the Ballard Cut and Parish in Seattle. He has been in the bar and restaurant industry for 20 years. Tommy is an expert in bourbon, Japanese whiskey, and Scotch whiskey. He's traveled around the world and along the way added several pieces to his utterly impeccable palate. Whether it's adding to your whiskey collection or your honey collection, Tommy is the guy to talk about all aspects of the industry. So thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate that.
Thanks a lot for having me.
And I can't wait till the three of us can actually go to one of your guys' bars and actually rock out. That'll be super cool. That'll be awesome. So today's topic, whiskey bars. This is a topic that you guys are both very well familiar with. Obviously, there's a crazy amount of things going on right now in the world of whiskey and in the world as a whole. But when it comes to bars, you guys have faced more adversity now than ever before, but you're coming through it on the positive end here. But I would like to talk about a couple things today. One, how do whiskey bars curate their selection? Two, how do you guys keep your staff trained on the spirits that are offered if they're coming in new? If your staff is new, what do you guys do? Tips on how to choose a whiskey at a bar, and how you guys have evolved during the pandemic. So, I mean, there's obviously a lot to talk about here and unpack, but I'll start with you, Ollie. Talk to me about your background, because, you know, going from architecture to the bar industry doesn't seem like the norm. However, if you've been designing bars, then it's kind of up your alley and not that far-fetched.
Yeah, well, I'm an architect. That's how I really make my living. And we've designed a lot of restaurants, fair number of bars. And Charles Phan, who's the chef owner of Slanted Door and a dear friend and my partner in Hardwater, Charles and I were talking about, trying to do something together, a small scale, so the two of us could afford to finance it rather than bring in, other investors. And Charles found this space at Pier 3 that Hardwater is located, 1,500 square feet. It's a tiny little space, but it's such a great location. It's only about 300 yards from Slanted Door, so it's sort of perfect. Charles said, "I think we should do a fried chicken place there." And I said, "Well, the rent is never going to work with fried chicken. How about we do a whiskey bar and you serve fried chicken?" So he agreed to that. I had a bigger background in whiskey than he did, although he likes whiskey and we drunk a fair amount of it together. But, going to Washington and Lee and University of Virginia, I spent 10 years in the South and got a pretty good background in bourbon when I was younger. And then I've always enjoyed it, so I continued that education sort of on a personal level. And then Hardwater gave me an opportunity not only to design my own whiskey bar, but then I became the sort of hard to find spirits buyer for hard water. So that was sort of my job, was to
Great.
find all the stuff that, generally wasn't available. And that's a pretty fun job. And so that was our initial concept about, how we were going to do it. And that's how I got into the bar business. I will say I'm happy that I make my living as an architect, because my bar is probably more of a hobby than a profession. Tommy's a professional here, but we love our bar, and we have been sadly shut down since COVID hit, and we're not reopened yet. We don't do to-go cocktails. We don't do to-go food. Our bar is all about, people getting together, being together. And so it's really tough with COVID, obviously. We have worked out a deal with our landlord. We will be reopening. We're just trying to find a time when it makes sense, and it doesn't, unfortunately, yet. I think it's getting closer, but it'd be nice if these variations kind of quit.
Yeah, it really would be. It really would be, because this is getting a little out of hand right now. I heard that San Francisco is a bit of a disaster right now. And to your point, because I think every state handles everything differently, with Tommy and bringing Tommy into this conversation, you started your bars during the pandemic. Is that correct?
Yeah. The myself and my partner, John, whom have worked together for the past 10 years, we got to know each other at a place called The Whiskey Bar in Belltown, just kind of a fun little spot, and about like 400 or 500 bottles, a couple fun ones, but nothing like major like hard water or the cut. But we had signed paperwork on March 13th of 2020, and then 3 days later the world shut down. And then so we quarantined together here in the bar, and we built it out just by ourselves, So Washington went into a phase program. There was the phase 1 was one that they were already in when they announced the program. Phase 2 was going to be like a partial reopening, and then they kind of went back a little bit and did phase 1.5, and then they let open 25% of capacity for restaurants and bars during that time frame. So you had social distancing, the whole bit, and it was just heavy restrictions and whatnot. So it was we have to open, because at that point I think we had $1,300 in our checking account, and we had $3,000 in checks out. So we're opening today, I'm that is what is happening.
Oh my God.
It was a little bit of a wild ride, but and then I went 3-4 days later. We signed a lease for our second space, Parish Northwest, and then but I got a good chunk of time to build it out, and took the money that I made from the cut. It was doing the construction thing in the beginning, and then took the money from the cut and then put it in the Parish, and then ended up getting second shutdown. And then myself and John were the first to put up the pergolas in Seattle, and then we just let the plans go everywhere and sent it to everyone around us. So it was kind of like a big community building scenario. Right. And I know not everyone has that opportunity, but on the street that we are located on, it was a very good fit. So I'm actually running the construction crew during the day to open up the third, but the Ballard Cut has been the anchor of all of it. And myself and John's whiskey expertise and time in our industry came into that sort of a scenario. So it was a very difficult and rocky beginning, but it turned out that was a beautiful and a really strong foundation for what it is that we're going to be having moving forward.
Right. Absolutely. No, I love what you guys do. It's great space, and you've opened up very methodically. So congratulations to you, especially during this time. Ollie, I have a question for you with respect to what we're kind of talking about here. As you can see, these two gentlemen are both very diverse from their backgrounds, totally opposite, really. How do you curate your whiskey selection? I'm very curious about this, because your background is more of a hobby for you, in saying that, correct? Whereas I think, Tom, you were talking about being from the bar itself. So, Ollie, how did you curate for hard water?
Well, I should probably point out that, you can see all the hot sauce bottles behind me. That's another hobby. So I take my hobbies very seriously. And so, I wouldn't claim to be a whiskey professional, but I know a lot about bourbon, American whiskey. I'm not by any means an expert in other kinds of whiskey. I like them. But I know a lot about American whiskey, and the way we started Hardwater was that the idea was we were going to try to source a lot of great, hard to find bottles. And this was 8 years ago. It was at a time when stuff was more affordable than it is now. I mean, the pandemic has driven the secondary market through the roof. So I was able to get a lot of good bottles. We have a really great library collection. And then from that, we started also developing some relationships through some friends I had in the industry with different distilleries, mostly in Kentucky, places like Buffalo Trace, Wild Turkey, Four Roses, and Willet have all been really great to us.
Yes.
And now we have lots of other relationships as well. But at the beginning, those were kind of the four that we went to. And Drew Culsveen in particular was super nice to us, let us pick 2 private barrels and got them to us before we opened, which was awesome.
Nice. Crazy.
It just so kind of him, and it made a big difference. And from that, we started, developing an interest in private barrels. And so now we have over 50 private barrels, probably 60 now. And we've always had a rule that we go to the distillery when we pick private barrels. And if possible, we taste with the master distiller. There is nothing more fun than going to Kentucky, going to Wild Turkey, sitting down with Jimmy and Eddie Russell and drinking whiskey. Now, you always go in the afternoon because then they don't have anywhere else to go, and they're willing to tell stories forever. And that is like, one of my favorite afternoons. In fact, if I had to choose a final afternoon, that would probably be it.
That would be it. That's the worst afternoons.
You go into the week because what they do is they pull down barrels out of the rick house, and during the week for private tastings, and then they leave them down there. And so all the ones that haven't gotten chosen are already on the floor. Now they'll pull special ones down for you, but if you want to keep tasting, they'll go back to those other barrels. So by the end of the week, there's like 20 barrels there. So fortunately, we always have a driver when we go there. So.
Well, you have to. I mean, for that, you wouldn't make it a block if you were in your own car.
You would not.
And do you guys have different whiskeys between Hardwater and Slanted Door?
No. So Slanted Door, Slanted Door is a famous, James Beard award-winning restaurant. It has a great bar, but it's not a whiskey bar. It's just a good bar. In our redesign, which we're doing now, we'll have even a better bar, but the focus is not on whiskey. The focus is on all kinds of cocktails. Now they have great whiskeys there, but only a few, unlike Hardwater, which has 1,000. So,
oh my God.
But I will say that, since the pandemic, and Charles and I have had a chance to sort of reassess what we're doing, and given what the whiskey market has done, we're really moving away from the kind of library idea and focusing much more on the private barrel thing. So that will continue to be a focus. And the reason for that is now those library whiskeys are so valuable that they're only for major expense accounts, basically. And that's not our goal. We're fine. We're happy to have some good whiskeys. If people really want to have something super special, we have that. But I'm much more focused on, I want the bar to be a place where you can come in with a friend, have a unique experience, and not blow a ton of money. And the private barrels are really the way to do that. We can offer you a flight of Willets. We can offer you a flight of just great whiskeys, great bourbons, great ryes. We have a beginner flight. We have all kinds of price points, but none of them are crazy, except the Pappy Van Winkle flight, which of course is crazy. But I think going forward, that's how we're gonna focus.
Right.
And then we have, because of Charles's success in the restaurant world, of course, the distributors are anxious to sell us stuff, so we do get really good access to whatever's out there in California.
And to you, Tommy, on that point as well, what would you say your aspect is of that? Because I know your bar is quite renowned in terms of what you've got on your shelves. It's truly spectacular.
Thank you. That's kind of you. But the way I mean, I really appreciate what Ollie's kind of saying about like how to have a unique experience without blowing that fat chunk of change. You know, like I didn't come from a lot of money, so it's important for me to be able to have something there for everyone, not just a person with the expense account with the black Amex that can walk in there and buy an island. You know, so I want everyone to be able to come in and have a good time. And of course, like those people come in and the nerds that have tried everything out there, and then they want that last little like chasing the white dragon, you know, that they want to try that thing, you know, like I got it, you know, but it's just kind of one of those, like I don't want to get a whole bunch of white dragons, like that's not how this works, you know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, what I want and what are feasible are two very different things.
Absolutely.
But that being said, like the general kind of joke that I have about when people ask me how we curated the back bar is we don't have everything, but we have everything that we love. And like pretty much what Ollie did, like you focus on like a smaller number of people and then you really dive down the rabbit hole with those. So it's like I love the wild turkey line. So I have everything from wild turkey today going back through like the 70s, you know. I don't have a bunch of other high rise, you know, but I got a bunch of other fun stuff and from Buffalo Trace, and I got Blanton's that Elmer T. Lee distilled. I got a GOT stag that Albert Blanton distilled. I got like stuff that like Julian Van Winkle distilled, and then I got your contemporary stuff that's all affordable that somebody can try. So that way they come in and they're like, I want to get a flight. I've always wanted to try Pappy, but I don't want to spend $150. I'm like, you don't have to. Like, let's talk about this. Like, take a smaller dose, and then you can say that you tried it, you know, and kind of go from there. So,
absolutely. So with that being said, you know, to your, you know, to kind of ask this, you just kind of mentioned a very vast amount of whiskeys that you do have. How do you train a new staff member in something like that? Do you leave it to them to say, oh, let me get Tommy, you know, or do you say, you know, go out and try your luck, or are you hiring people that are just passionate about what you have? Like, how does that work?
Kind of a combination of all of your little anecdotes in that sort of a sense. Like you try to hire the right people, you know, but you're never going to hire somebody like Ollie, you or me, because you need 20 years to be able to do this. You know, like look at Ollie's hot sauce collection. Like you can sit there and talk about hot sauce all day long.
Yes.
You know,
so it's like with that. It is so sick.
It's great. You know, I wish I totally feel like a chump right now. I should have put my honey back up behind me.
It's so funny because I saw that when I came on, and I was
some hot sauce for honey, Tommy.
Tommy's gonna lose his mind when he sees your wall.
Like, damn it, you know, missed opportunity. But so it's you got to give them a chance to learn it for themselves, you know. And it's like, and in this sort of a sense, like I always kind of go back to like whenever I watch like a National Geographic, and I see like the pride of the lion family, you know, and like going and like partially hurting like something, and then you're giving like the young one a chance to come over and learn how to do it. So when somebody asks me, hey, let's talk about whiskey, I'm like, hey man, why don't you come over here? Like, we'll go ahead and put down what you're doing for a hot second, and then come over and listen to what I have to say and about the questions that I ask everyone about, like, because I ask the same three every time. It's just like, what are you looking for? What do you generally avoid? And how much do you want it to cost? You know, because everyone's got a different budget. Everyone's got different flavor profiles and whatnot. And half of my collection is American stuff. A quarter of it's Japanese, and then a quarter of it's Scotch. So, and everywhere in between, and everyone just like comes in for one thing that they really want. But that being said, like you got to let them taste it. You know, you got to let them just kind of like talk about it, do some of their own research, and just try to coach them that like if you're going to try to learn about all like 1,200 bottles at once, you're going to fail. You know, like take a couple of these different things, like focus on like a smaller percentage of them, like in like 1 week, learn how to talk about it, learn how to like kind of like focus on it, and then move on to the next thing. And then before you know it, you're going to be
just becomes a
like
hobby.
Wally's hot sauce wall,
yeah.
Or Ollie's hot sauce wall, you know.
Just complete guru, right?
I'm not jealous at all, Ollie. This is ridiculous. I don't know why you'd say that.
I can't wait to go.
I consider that quite a compliment from you.
Yeah, wow. Because Ollie, speaking firsthand, I know how obsessed Tommy is with hot sauce. Or sorry, with honey. So to see that, I'm thinking like this might be Tommy's new thing. I don't know, but
I mean, I make a lot of my own hot sauce and whatnot, but it's like
okay.
I definitely go and I try everyone's from everywhere. It's if I'm given the option of honey or hot sauce, like I'm going honey all day, you know. And there's only so many little like mysterious bottles that they'll let you check in through your baggage. You know?
That's true. You got to check bags.
Yeah, you do got to check.
I make hot sauce too, so we're gonna have to trade some of our homemade hot sauce.
I really like this. I like where this is going.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
When you guys, you know, I just want to ask you about the programs at the bars. Now, whiskey cocktails are a huge thing right now. And have you noticed that that's more so now, or is that always been a thing? Like when you were at Whiskey Bar, you know, were you doing a lot of the whiskey cocktail stuff then? And Ollie, are you doing a lot of whiskey cocktails at Hardwater, or is that more for Slanted Door?
Well, we do a lot of whiskey cocktails. I mean, we have a really nice cocktail menu. Eric Atkins, who's the head of the beverage program for the Slanted Door Group, which is all of Charlton's restaurants. Eric's the one that pretty much curates the cocktail collection, and he's you know, totally into sort of old school cocktail making. He has all the old books, you know, they're out of print. And I mean, I'd say we probably have 10 classics that we do, but we probably have a list of 30. And he can do any whiskey cocktail you can think of. I mean, he knows every one of them. So, yeah, I know the cocktails are very popular, and you know, I like whiskey cocktails too. I mean, you know, a good old fashioned, a good Manhattan, a good Boulevardier. I'm all over those.
Heck yes. And for you, Tommy, are you in the same category, or is it vastly different?
Yeah, man. I mean, for the past like ever since around like 2004, 2005, like there's been a big resurgence of having classic cocktails that weren't necessarily like tail light red or bright blue, you know, even though some of those are coming back now. But it's people want something that's just like a well-balanced classic variation. And like whenever I train bartenders, like I always tell them that they need to know like 7 basic drink ratios, and then every other cocktail is essentially built off of that. Like that like golden like 7 of whatever. So it's just kind of it's a little bit of a interesting scenario because like everyone's got their own take on things and how they feel that things should be done properly, you know. It's like but what people don't understand is that, you know, like there's a lot of regionality in these things. However, like the classics have like very standard ratios that it's generally easy to please like large groups of different folk from different backgrounds as well. But like whiskey cocktails are definitely like a huge thing in my world and have been for quite some time. As a matter of fact, it's how I judge a lot of other bars and whatnot. It's like when I'll go into them, I'll be like, how would you make a Manhattan for me? Or like, talk to me about your old fashioned. Like, what do you think about that? And then if they start talking about how they're just gonna like beat the shit out of some oranges and cherries, and like, well, let's talk about your IPA. Like, you got a Pilsner? Are we good on that? You know?
Oh no. Yeah, and that's actually kind of, you know, it's funny you say that because I was thinking to myself, what was it that led you guys to start your bars? Did you just go into other bars and think, you know, hey, I can do this better and I can do this in a way that I think would be better? Like, what was it for you guys that had that aha moment to start your own? I mean, that's a big venture. You know, that's no small task. Like, I've seen the size of your places. They're huge, you know. Is it something that you just thought you went in one day and just had this moment of, okay, I see what I've got here and I can do this so much better? Either of you can answer.
Tommy, you start because I think this is more to you.
Mine was I got tired of making money for other people, and and it was something where like I've always loved this industry. I started out as a dishwasher when I was 16, and then I came up and like through happenstance, like I got the keys of a couple places thrown to me, just not because I was the right person, but because I was the only person that was there. So it wasn't necessarily like, here you go, kid. It was just, I guess it's you and me, you know? So, and then I did well during those time frames. So it was very important for me to be able to give myself the chance to do it for myself, because like I've always wanted to, And John and I have always dreamed about having like our little whiskey bar and whatever. So just kind of came to the point in my life where I was doing like a bunch of consultations and doing a lot of private whiskey tastings and working my butt off for somebody else's bottom line. And I got to the point where I was like, I can do this, you know? So I just kind of put all of my chips. And then, because I've been working like 80 to 100 hour weeks for the past like 6 or 7 years. So it's just been,
Wow.
like, I got a decent stack of chips and then I just kind of put them all in the middle and like, let's go.
Let's go. Yeah, fair. And you, Ollie?
Yeah, I'm very different, you know. So I am, my only real talent is architecture. You know, that's what I'm really good at, and I love it.
Ollie.
Well, I just, you know, that is my passion, and that is really what I would say. That's where I'm a professional. The bar thing, you know, Charles is really the professional in this, and he's a restaurateur, chef. But you know, I knew that my knowledge would complement his, and I thought we could make a great bar. And quite honestly, I just thought we could do a bar that didn't exist in San Francisco. What I told Charles was, what I wanted was a place where if you had a friend that you hadn't seen in a decade, and you weren't sure you're ever going to see him again, and you wanted to go have a drink with him or her, and they would never forget it, where would you go? And I wanted people to think of our bar. And I quite honestly think that's what we've created. I think you can go to Hardwater and you can have a drink that your friend will never forget. And you can have a shot of, and honestly, I think when you do that, you have a shot of whiskey. And you have a shot of great whiskey. You know, you don't go drinking old fashioned.
Yes.
And that was kind of the mission statement of the bar. And Charles liked it. And we said, all right, well, let's do it. And, you know, and for me, it's a social thing. I love having customers there. I love entertaining people there. I like being in the bar. I don't have to make drinks. I don't get behind the bar. And often I'll meet people, talk to them, and they don't know that I own the bar. And because Charles is the poster boy, right? So, you know, and that's kind of cool. And I'll probably own up that I designed it, but I probably own up I own it. And for me, it's been a real a joy. I mean, I love having it, and that was why I wanted it. I'm not going to do another whiskey bar. If Charles wants to do other ones, he can, but I won't be involved with them other than I'll probably design them. But for
Is
me,
there a reason for that?
very much it's a kind of it's an extension of one of my passions, and that's sort of, at this point in my life, what I try to do is live my passions. So.
Well said.
Ollie, never tell people that you own the bar.
Yeah, I know.
They always say, like, you know what you should do? And it just turns into this.
Or
Yeah. I'll tell the owner that you said that. That guy's never around.
You get that a lot. I know that.
Yeah.
I've seen that first.
You tell him that he's not around.
Oh no. If you guys were to say that one city or restaurant around the world really helped shape this, what city or place would you have picked? Very curious. I know you guys are both well traveled.
I mean, like, for timeline wise, I'd say New York, just because of like the beginning of all this, like where the cocktail kind of came to fruition would have been like there, like right when the train like really started to come up. That's when you started getting like citrus and different ingredients, and like when all like the punches started being made. And then in the Industrial Revolution, when like a lot of these different things got like automated and you had these little ingredients on like a faster basis, then all of a sudden you had smaller doses, aka the cocktail. So it's like you had like a single shot of like whatever, and then you had the opportunity to have oranges with something, you know. So it wasn't just like this big oleosaccharum that you and your entire family had to sacrifice one of your kids for to get a sack of oranges, you know. And then like you just got to make the most out of it. So for like the sake of the history and whatnot, I'd say probably New York, or at least like northeastern United States in like the mid 1700s, like late 1700s, like early 1800s, you know, like when Jerry Thomas was around. But it was just still kind of like, I'd say that time frame. Contemporary, I'd still say New York.
Really? Wow, okay, very interesting.
Just because like in that early like 2000 like time frame, like when Please Don't Tell, and then like Employees
Gotcha.
Only, and like
So
all
cool.
these other Dead Rabbit, you know, and like all these other different people started like fucking crushing it, you know, and then everyone's like, oh my god, this is how you make a Sazerac, you know, and then you got all these people over here in Seattle that are just like when Murray started bartending at Zigzag, and he really kind of put it out there with like The Last Word, and it was this big thing that kind of came through, and then people realized it's like, oh, these dusty old bottles that are sitting on the back bar, like you don't have to have like a little a Jägermeister like shot with like whatever, you know, it's just like, or like a duck fart or something like that. I mean, like trends kind of come and go, but I'm personally very happy to have seen this kind of come up, because like those bars and like some specific people around really brought this up and kind of gave my profession credit, and then also like gave me a chance to do what it is that I'm doing today.
Very well said. Ollie?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can. I think Tom is completely right. I think New York is the center of all of it. The history of cocktails through New York is insane, and I think we're all inspired by it. I think looking back, like he said, in the late 18th century, early 19th, a lot of the history comes out of New York, but in terms of current, I was pretty inspired by bars in Seattle, bars in San Francisco, and bars in LA. I think the West Coast actually has a lot of great bars, a lot of great bartenders. So I think I just didn't see the bar I wanted, and so that's kind of where we went. But I was certainly inspired by all of those places, and there's something about a whiskey bar I just like. So
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because for me, I was going to say Mexico City.
Nice.
I just, and that's obviously far more contemporary, but some of the trends that have come out of there are the coolest things on earth. You've got this taco truck, and it literally opens up, and there's a bar in the taco truck, and I'm thinking to myself, like, where did this even come from? Those kind of concepts, I think, would be really something that I would love to see more of on the West Coast, per se. But you're totally right. New York is definitely the kingpin for that.
We may have a few laws that prevent us from doing the bar in the taco truck, because I like the idea, but although Mexico City is awesome, and my newest passion is mezcal, so stay tuned on that one.
Yeah, all I could think about was like ADA accessibility, and I'm like, you can't do that, right? Like you can't. I'm like, I've tried. They keep turning it down, Yeah. I feel like people like Canon and like having that like huge collection. And I remember going to that bar like in the first 2 weeks that it opened, and for me that was a really magical experience. And like going and being able to see like that entire wall of whiskey, and I'm like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah, right.
I know that I can. I'm like, it's being done. People are here. They love this. And I'm like, all right, I got a little bit of a better plan. Like, I don't ever want what Jamie has. Like, Jamie's got like 4,000 bottles, and I mean, like, more crowns than like he would need to like give himself like a neck ache, But it's still just kind of one of those like I'm happy being who we are, And it's like having those design elements and having those like inspirational points from different people are really great. However, it's also important to be very true to yourself,
And Canon is, an amazing place, but no one can do that anymore. It's impossible.
And especially with the secondary markets right now.
It's a one of a kind. It'll always be a one of a kind. And he's got a collection that will probably outlive him. So that's amazing.
Well, actually, you hit it on the head, Ollie. You were saying, and Tommy just said this, the secondary market especially, Ollie, when I was coming into your bar, I was tasting things that you just cannot find now.
Yeah.
I mean, and they were just, at the time they were just your average good bottle, but now they're just on another level.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you find it, it's $11,000.
Right.
And then looking at like a 20% pour cost, you're looking at like $2,100 or $2,200, and it's like
ridiculous. Yeah, who wants to do that? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true. Oli, the other day you mentioned something to me that I thought was really interesting. Your female demographic at your bar is quite high. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
How did that come about? I'm really curious because, you know, the thing is that I see so much in this industry, and you guys can probably attest to it, is horrible marketing towards females. Just non-existent, really. You know, if it's going to be a whiskey, it's going to be in a cocktail, and I think that's bullshit. How did you wind up with this demographic?
You know, quite honestly, I think it's a result of the design. The space is very bright, light, tall. It's got nice views of the water. It's right on the Embarcadero. It's a very pleasant, unthreatening space. A lot of whiskey bars are dark, smoky, sort of, even if it's not really smoky. A lot of them, the inspiration is inside of a whiskey barrel. And, you know, Hardwater is definitely not that. Our focus was on the space, on the area we were, and on the collection. So, you know, we did sort of what I did here. We put the collection on display, backlit it, because to me, that was the real beauty of what we were doing. And we did some other cool stuff beyond that. But, you know, I was really pleasantly surprised. I honestly thought a whiskey bar, it's going to be pretty male-centric, and it is not. I would say probably 35–40% of our customers are women, and we get a lot of women coming in groups, and they're just drinking among themselves. I mean, it's not a pickup place. It's not where people are going to hook up. It's a place where people are going to be with friends, and you know, obviously we get mixed groups too. Which is awesome. I mean, and it's really been, I think, wonderful to see just our customers' interest in whiskey and learning about it. And the women, quite honestly, are in many cases way more open to, you know, asking questions, listening to what the bartenders have to say, really trying to educate themselves. Guys often come in with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. They need to prove that they're a stud, and you know, that's a waste of time. You're generally not going to impress a bartender with that, you know. So, you know, I love the demographic we've got. I hope it continues. I think it will.
Well,
anyway,
you hit on something that Tommy said to me recently, that going to the bar is an experience, not just a place to go.
Yeah.
You know, what would you say to the same thing, Tommy? Is there a big demographic of females in your bar?
I mean, each day it varies, you know, just because it's kind of one of those, you never know what you're going to get. Just kind of a mixed bag every day that you pop the door open. So, but by and large, I'd say about like 60-40, you know, just because there's plenty of women that come in, there's plenty of men that come in, there's plenty of groups, there's plenty of, because it is a restaurant, you know, and it's just got an extensive bar program. And that was what we had kind of agreed on, just because like there's great bar programs and then there's great restaurants, and we wanted to kind of do the same thing where it's like this little magical playland where cost doesn't matter, and then I cry in the corner at night, you know. It's just one of those. And everyone's like, this is fantastic. I'm like, it is, it really is.
It's
But
time right now to be in this, because as you guys mentioned, like, I love the fact that Ole's gone to a program of single barrels, because, you know, 50 single barrels is a lot, but you're going to need it because you can't just replenish these $10,000 bottles.
No.
You know, I mean, it's not much for me to say that they should or shouldn't be $10,000, but you know, they are. And what do you do to supplement that, right? I think there's a lot of great whiskey that's being produced right now. So why not hit it on what you guys are doing? I love that.
Yeah, it's a challenge because, you know, a lot of the distilleries have shut down their private barrel programs, or they're limiting them. Fortunately, we're already in on a bunch of them, so that's good. And, you know, obviously having bars like Tommy's or Hardwater, there's a certain credentials that go with that, so we can probably talk our way in. But we have found that saying, look, we're only going to do this if you let us come, has helped a lot, because people respect that, quite honestly. They know you're serious. You know, like I go up to Hill Rock up in upper New York State every year and we pick a couple private barrels there every year. And it's out in the middle of nowhere. But
It really is.
we
Yeah.
go there and they make great whiskey. So it's fun, and you have to make the effort. But that's, our collection is simpler than Tommy's. We don't have Japanese, we don't have Scotch, we have American whiskey. So at least for the whiskey, I only travel here.
I mean, I wouldn't say simpler. I would say maybe more concentrated. I think there's something to be said about both, and there's a mutual respect. And both of them do what they're intended to do, right? Hardwater came out as an American whiskey bar, right? So very different. But I think right now where things are going, the single barrel may be the future of things, especially for you guys, because you can pour the whiskey or you can make it in a cocktail. So it's got that versatility, and you don't need to spend that kind of insane fortune that some of these bars are spending right now. I mean, I have seen big bills at both of your restaurants and bars respectively from people that are willing to so-called cater chase, right? They're looking for that white rabbit, like you were saying. It's a crazy thing out there right now. In terms of your bartenders and your staff, are you guys on a very loyal program, or is it, you see a lot of turnover, especially right now in this pandemic? How has that been for you guys during this whole time?
For myself, it's been like not a lot of turnover whatsoever.
That's amazing.
I was able to give my staff health care, and we've been open since I've been able to, so, and it's just kind of one of those things, like obviously making sure that everyone's safe and doing the right thing and not transmitting any sort of like disease or anything like that is quite important. However, also making sure that people have like a way to earn a living, and it's like, absolutely, there's a lot of people in this city particularly that wanted to get back to work and needed to find an outlet for it. So being able to come into a place like this and earn a good wage and earn like a good living and stuff like that, and be able to try all these different whiskeys. Like I know at least 2 of the different bartenders that are here, like as like a very well paid internship, because they want to go do the exact same thing,
Wow. Right.
To which I'm like, good luck, trying to find some of these bottles for less than like your left hand is going to be quite difficult,
Yeah.
So, but in the same sense, like the model's there, and having people, like having my background, like from coming from this industry for a long period of time and being here for the long haul, has been very good for me. So, absolutely. And it's been good in the sense of staff retention.
I imagine that the potential, the connections that you guys have made over the years is also a very important part of this business too, right? So, Ollie, you're talking about something that not a lot of people can say, that they've got a single barrel from Willet. That to me is one of the most special things you could have, especially right now where Willet is literally all the rage. One of those casks recently sold for $401,000 at that tornado auction for charity.
I know.
I mean,
amazing.
You were ahead of the curve, and I think loyalty is rewarded in that respect. And speaking to that, do you see a lot of loyalty at your bar?
Well, I think our situation is very different from Tommy. Obviously, we were open, way before the pandemic hit. The pandemic hit, and we closed. We didn't have any choice. We're also not a restaurant. We have bar food, but we're a bar. And, to me, a bar is about sitting down with friends, making new friends. It's about interaction and contact. And quite honestly, there was no point in us being open in the pandemic. And we're still not open. We're closed.
Right.
We're hoping to reopen soon, but, now with the new variants, who knows when we'll reopen. We will. I'm confident we'll reopen this year, but, most of our staff is gone. San Francisco is a scary place to live in terms of the cost of living here. And,
absolutely.
We couldn't make it. We can't pay them to stick around and wait for this thing to reopen. So, they all got unemployment, they all had time, but honestly, a lot of those people left the Bay Area. And it's a huge problem for all of the restaurants in the Bay Area. Everybody is understaffed. It's a mess. And they're not coming back. It's not going to, because none of the real estate prices have dropped. Rents haven't dropped, purchase prices haven't dropped. San Francisco is so expensive and so desirable that, all the tech employees who are working from home can afford it. And so they gobble the stuff up. And, it's part of a city. It's part of what makes San Francisco so great. But it's really tough from a staffing point of view. We do have, a couple really important people that are still on staff, but, most of our staff is gone. I'm pretty confident that when we reopen, we will find good people, but we're going to have to go through a whole new training again. And it'll take time. I think we've got the backbone. We'll be all right. But it won't be easy, and it won't be much fun because initially we won't be as good as we were.
Well, it's so crazy to see that you guys are so close in state and yet so different by state. Tommy opened during the pandemic, you closed. And I think that's got to be something that gets a little more fluid across all states, because that's craziness to hear. I'm shocked by that statement. If you guys had one piece of advice to someone that was going to open a bar, what would it be?
Invite 10 friends that you like over to your house, 40 that you're kind of okay with, and about 10 that you don't like. And then make drinks for all of them for about 3 hours, and then see if you still want to do it.
That's a good answer. I don't think I'm going to keep my answer.
Stay sober, and then make all of them drinks whenever they want. And then at the end of the night, be like, do I like this?
Ollie, anything for you?
Yeah, I think quite honestly, a good bar is it should make money, but it's also a passion project. And you need to have a vision for what that's going to be. So, and that needs to be unique. If you want to be a really cool bar, it needs to be unique. And don't go copy somebody. Go to all the bars that you've heard about, all the ones that, are legendary. Go check them all out. You can't do what any of those guys do, but learn from what they've done and why are those unique? And then think about, how do I make mine unique? I think if you can come up with that answer, you'll be successful. You still got to make it work as a business, but your vision needs to align with your pocketbook, and that's probably important. Most people don't get that initially, but eventually they will. And depending on your pocketbook, that will influence what you can do. But I think more importantly, it needs to be a vision that you're passionate about, and then you follow it.
Totally.
I love that.
And if you don't have any experience in the restaurant industry, hire a consultant.
Yeah.
Just to give you at least your base level percentage margins that you're trying to hit, so that way you're not going in there blind. Just because that'll save your ass across the board if you at least know what you should be doing. So
actually go work for Tommy for about 3 years and then think about it.
Absolutely not, Ollie. Don't you put that evil on me. That's terrible.
Before I wrap this up, I got a couple of things here. Bob Howell says hello to Ollie, and that he's got an incredible mushroom. He's a mushroom expert. Is that true, Ollie?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to have to figure this out.
I love foraging. I love mushrooms. I have a cabin up on the Sonoma coast, one of the great mushroom spots in the world.
We're going to need to figure this out because Tommy, I can see Tommy's wheels turning right now, dude.
What have I been doing this whole time?
Yeah.
just over here shitting the bed. Don't mind me.
Well, someone says, Jason Krull says Tommy is a legend, which I agree. And you've got a couple of things in the works right now with your citizenship and your, am I allowed to talk about that with other things that you've got going on?
Yeah. So long story short, my grandmother had an affair on my grandfather, and my real grandfather is a butcher from Ireland who actually helped to start the IRA. It's all starting to come together now about my lack of caring and heavy drinking. So I was just this is all making sense. This tracks. But so I might become an Irish citizen, which would give me dual citizenship. And then I want to go over and potentially start some bars and restaurants over there, which would be really fun. But for the time being, my bitters and shrub company and my little like soda line and stuff like that is kind of getting up and running. And then my third restaurant is what I've been building out during the day. It's called Boon Soy. It's a Filipino restaurant. The chef, there's a chef in the company that has just been doing a killer job and great dude, you know. So we're getting him a go at his own restaurant and just kind of letting it go from there. So here we are.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I won't keep you. You guys have been unbelievable guests for me to talk to. I'm so honored to have the ability to talk to you guys like this and really get into it with you. Thank you so much, Ollie. Yeah, Ollie, if you guys don't know, is the owner of Hardwater in San Francisco, an amazing American whiskey bar. Check that out when it reopens this year. Tommy, thank you so much. Obviously, one of my good friends. And Tommy has Ballard Cut and Parish Northwest in Seattle. Remember, guys, this has been a beverage talk. This is so cool. We're going to be doing this every week, different topics every single time. Thank you so much, everybody that's been here. If you haven't grabbed your kits yet, head to beverage.co, grab your kit, and we will have the event coming up in mid-February. So hope to see you all there. Once again, thank you so much for attending tonight, guys. And Tommy and Ollie, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Take care, guys.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Nate.